Steelwolf Studios is genuinely one of the most divisive game studios when it comes to the FNAF fanbase. Most of the FNAF community despises Security Breach to the point it caused a minority of people to actually abandon the fanbase. My question to those people is, if Security Breach did that and Springtrap Vor didn't, you have some weird taste in media.
Good Lord, what is happening in there?
But regardless, after Security Breach, Steelwolf has had nothing but an increase in quality, game after game. Ruin DLC takes an entire tonal shift from Security Breach, becoming a lot more linear to approaching the Pizzaplex. I think I've shared my beliefs on Help Wanted 2 enough, and at this moment in time I still stand by the facts I said in that video. However, after Secret of the Mimic's release, me, as well as many other people, see it as the objective best FNAF release, potentially of all time. Steelwolf, who I've seen as taking the biggest risks out of the series, such as making an entire VR game and making a massive mall area to explore. While you could say they failed in some regards, like Security Breach, Steelwolf took what may be the biggest risk, making a game that takes place during the 1970s. And while I have some thoughts on how they integrate the time period in this game, I think overall this introduces some genuinely great character designs, music and visual storytelling. In Secret of the Mimics, we portray Arnold last name, providing a very reliable source of the average Fazbear entertainment worker, being worked to death, sent unknowingly to Murray's workshop, where his old creations still hang around. The game, at this time of writing, has had an extremely positive response and an all-time peak of 14,000 players after the first day and will most likely grow over time. I've seen people online talking about how FNAF is ruined because the games aren't focused on William Afton anymore, and to that I say, isn't William Afton like in hell or something like that? And the rest of the Afton bloodline is 6 feet under. I think the use of the Mimic is genuinely a great change for the series to deviate from Afton, while keeping them somewhat in the picture through Glitchtrap. Even though I don't fully understand how the Mimic is Glitchtrap, but whatever, it's probably in Security Breach, Fazbear Frights, or whatever that book series is called. It's a character that is rooted to the series from previous installments, and adds new lore that doesn't affect any previously established lore in the series so far. And with all that said, this is Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic.
Hey buddy, this is Dispatch with Fazbear Entertainment. How are you feeling?
The game immediately presents itself as superior to the rest, being the first time in the series we start the game outside the main location. Being able to drive while the landscape is nothing necessarily awe-inspiring, it's just a basic forest road, but it's such a breath of fresh air considering everything else we've had in this series. It'd be better if there were more cars so you could cause an absolute onslaught 7-car pilot. It is honestly really cool being able to meet the person Han Unit's voice comes from, being known in this game as Dispatch, who basically manipulates us into taking our next job after non-stop working for 36 hours. I think immediately showing Andy Field's character as both threatening but somewhat charismatic is actually pretty intimidating, and shows how even during the early points of its success, Fazbear Entertainment is extremely corrupt and manipulated, completely ignoring Arnold's complaints, basically threatening to fire him if he doesn't take the job. Anyway, we arrive at Edwin Murray's workshop factory superstore thing, and get our first extract of Edwin's voice.
The MCM facility is temporarily closed.
Hearing his voice for the first time, it immediately sounds nothing like the My Name is Edwin Jackie's Box version, but obviously it wouldn't. Also, David sounds like an actual child over a 17-year-old really after getting kicked in the balls on helium. We head around the side entrance where we can find an extremely ominous playground. I didn't actually read the Tales from the Pizzaplex books, other than the first 3, in which the third one I got bored after the second story and gave up. So other than Ruin and Jackie's box, I have a very small amount of knowledge as to what the hell a Mimic even is. So going in, all I know was that he likes to dress up in fursuits. This might be the scariest FNAF villain yet. Anyhow, we enter the workshop, in which we are treated to a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style introduction to the workshop, where all the characters, including Montgomery Gator, who was around in the 70s with Mr. Hippo and Happy Frog from Pizzeria Simulator. Interestingly enough, as we continue, we will meet more characters from Pizzeria Sim, like Orville Elephant. It would make you question what characters were actually made by Fazbear Entertainment, but then I realised Fazbear Entertainment didn't actually make all the characters from Pizza Sim. Michael just bought them. They also show up in the books, being Puppet Carver, the 9th Fazbear Fright book, confirmed in the official encyclopedia, which in 2025 makes me question why I bought all this trash. Unfortunately, the power to opening the door cuts out, stopping us from getting to the lobby, meaning we have to reach a security office to talk to dispatch. On our path, we walk past a bunch of empty suits laying perfectly still as we walk straight past them. We make our way to the security office, in which dispatch makes a subtle hint towards the danger ahead of us, making a joke about how Fazbear Entertainment employees were making bets on if we would survive our trip up, both creating an uneven sense that we're in danger in the workshop from whatever is in here. I have a sneaking suspicion it's the Mimic. We open the door that introduces us to the main puzzles and secret of the Mimic. Again, they're nothing particularly special, but I appreciate the effort to make it feel like you're actually doing something that isn't just goddamn walking, which is sadly just the status quo at this point. On the other side of the room is another limp dog costume, similar to those we've seen so far. However, something is a little different to the rest, mainly the flies flying around it. Taking a closer look, and I remember the universal crash out half the FNAF fanbase had when they took the word bleeding out of security breach to make it more mainstream and family friendly. So making an active effort to show a dead body stuffed in the suit without necessarily showing any gore is really well done and increases the fear factor behind the workshop. Also, using the only arm or being a very subtle hint behind the body also works to show the risk this person has, because he has the exact same uniform as us, the same coat, the same gloves, showing we aren't the first people tasked with this mission, and if we die, we won't be the last, making Fazbear Entertainment that extra bit more evil. I genuinely love the suspense that gets built up from this point on in the game. There's possibly hundreds of costumes and the Mimic is in one of them, coming after you. Speaking of, while this is an extremely common method of introducing the whole stealth mechanics in games like these, it is effective at building the suspense, and I find it really fun how non-rigid the running cycle is. I've seen American football players run with less intensity, considering this is a robot from the early 70s, but still it is very intense. Escape to a higher level with the help of an elevator, in which we are surrounded by a bunch of large costumes and toys surrounding everything, until we reach... no way. We pull the crank and Jackie shows up, in where we take the crank of Jackie's box, and I'm almost certain she'll show up later, considering she was the whole promotional material for the game, like the trailers, the poster, the Steam banner, the first trailer. I do have something to say about that actually, but I'll bring it up later. We enter another security office where, in turning on the generator, a big tube hand enters the room, dragging its body into it. Jackie then detaches herself painfully from the box and claims an innocent life. We then leg it out the room as Jackie, now worn by the Mimic, chases us down a hole in the floor, in which the Mimic has fully taken over her. Once green eyes are now swapped to the harsh yellow spirals we can correlate to the Mimic in this game. I think this chase would be extremely dull and just kind of awful if it wasn't for the added intensity, where as we're getting chased, Jackie's arms stretch around us, just barely evading her clutches all time. She's always one step ahead, but we'll be climbing up a staircase, her head pokes out trying to grab us, making it feel like we make a single mistake, we'll die and just end up like the poor guy that was in the dog suit. After the chase ends, Jackie ends up wedged under a gate before we enter the ventilation system, in which this happens. We never see Jackie again, by the way. Considering Jackie was the main character when it came to teasing the game, it was the thing used to tease the game, particularly use of trailers and posters. I do wish they could have integrated her more into the game, but it was still a pretty great chase, and she's used well more than a different character that was also used to promote a game. So, it's not worth complaining about. We are then tasked with repairing the Willy Wonka instruction to the workshop lobby thing. In doing so, we are introduced to Mrs. Helpful, being the female counterpart to Mr. Helpful, basically being Edwin leading you around places. But other than that, he's honestly pretty redundant to the game. We reach our next section of the game, being with the great-grandfather of DJ Music Man, being called Big Top. This section is fine and all, but I genuinely can't stand Big Top when it comes to the story of the game. This takes place before Springlocks, relatively at least. And if this game takes place before the actual introduction of Billy Bob animatronics to Showbiz pizza places, and this MF single-handedly made a massive 15-foot robot able to jump around buildings like goddamn Spider-Man in 1979. Timeline questions aside, the gameplay here is fine enough, if not repetitive. We have to play arcade machines, and after doing so, we have to spin a mystery wheel. However, after finishing each game, the power runs out, so we have to finish the puzzle before Big Top reaches us. After finishing, he basically climbs out through the ceiling. Shame. We also have to take that way out. I said it at the start about being able to see the outside, but being on the roof is genuinely such a nice change of pace to what is typically shown in this game. It's either being tight hallways or wide IKEA-sized liminal spaces, but this is a nice breath of fresh air. We are teased with the possibility of a ride until Big Top jumps down attempting to kill us. While I'm not particularly fond of the character itself, this Big Top chase is genuinely amazing. It feels the right amount of intense, where everywhere we go, Big Top is stomping through, trying to reach us, and makes it feel, again, like if you stop for a second, you are harshly punished with a loud scare. This all ends where both of us plummet down into a pit because the fat bastard broke the weight limit. He dies, but not really because he shows up at the end, and we continue on. Our next mission is to build ourselves a Springlock suit, fittingly called Captain Springlock, basically revealing that William Afton and Henry basically stole the concept of Springlocks from Edwin, kind of like those guys that claimed Logan 38 stole the idea of Jeffy from them. This suit-up animation is just really funny to me because it just reminds me of that scene of Iron Man like getting into his suit for the first time. We build Captain Springlock, in which we have to act out a performance of a bunch of pirates, including both Foxy and Roxanne Wolf, surprisingly. So basically what this game is revealing to us is that Fazbear Entertainment made literally nothing on their own and basically just stole other people's work, which is just really funny to me. We then continue on until the entire room basically breaks apart, causing us to fall through the floor. It also makes you question how William Afton dies to a single drop of water, if it's what we believed, but this guy is able to survive falling through a goddamn floor. We awake to a nurse animatronic named Dolly, whose entire job is to take care of broken animatronics, including blending and brutalizing foreign objects inside of them, in this case being us. So to avoid a brutal death, we have to explore around the medical area, as Dolly, being the nurse, dashes around, and I honestly love this section. You have to run blindly through with the possibility that Dolly is right behind you, as the scraping of metal noises increases in volume, which is just suggesting she's getting closer and closer. After some intense shenanigans, we have to recreate that one eviction notice puzzle by knocking Dolly back into supposed molten lava by dropping a bunch of like wooden blocks onto her, and it moves her into a furnace thing. Surely that's the last we've seen of her. I think now is as good a time as any to mention the music. Leon Riskin returns to the franchise and every scene feels really fitting to its music. The loud intensity of it when Dolly climbs through the wall after surviving molten lava feels as cinematic as it should. Jackie's chase has a really neat, horrific beat, but also has a subtle aspect of circusy clown music fitting the clown aesthetic of the characters chasing us. It's here I should introduce Fiona, Edwin's wife, who sadly died, and is now working as an intercom helping us fix the elevator, while Dolly aggressively swings and swipes at us in an attempt to kill us. Fortunately, we fix the elevator and Dolly gets the fly swatter experience, and dies. Now is also worth mentioning the Tiger Rock animatronic from the cover of this FNAF book. I know nothing about it, but there's also this little plush toy in the FNAF VR 2. It shows up and works as a Golden Freddy style apparition, only showing up in the darkness, and I'd honestly never expect something that looks like this to be scary, but it genuinely is. With all of that out the way, we finally make it to Edwin's office, where the schematics for the mimic that Fazbear Entertainment wanted the whole time lie. From here, we reach a fork in the road. We can either give Fazbear Entertainment the schematics and leave, or we can refuse and head down a little passageway that opens. We'll start with the submissive little guy one, where we give the schematics and data driver to Fazbear Entertainment, in which we head back to our truck and leave. For whatever reason, Dispatch pretends to have never sent us to the workshop and gets us fired for supposedly leaving the company property, and intentionally fires us, which we move our mirror around and we can see we are carpooling with the mimic, who rushes and kills us. And then there's the longer ending where we head down the secret passageway. This is the first time in the series where Andy Field's character becomes genuinely interrogative, saying that he will see to it that Arnold will die. We then get another massive reveal that Edwin created the FNAF 1 animatronics, in which Fazbear Entertainment didn't like the designs, and from a tape it sounds like Fazbear Entertainment just changed a bunch about the withered designs, which obviously, as we know in FNAF 2, they were salvaged. They then, with the cheaper budget, opened up FNAF 1, being Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, using Edwin's original designs that they already owned. It surprisingly makes more sense when you think about it. We make it to the FNAF 1 office, in which we find Fiona, who is not in fact a woman and has become the Mixis from FNAF Ruin, now named Fiona, obviously. She wants us to fix the mimic's coding to stop being such a violent knobhead and become similar to the nice mimic previously coded by Edwin. Fortunately, we don't get to do this, and the last section of this ending is just getting the heck out of here. We get back to our truck and the best ending in any FNAF game occurs. The same night I finished this game and got this ending, I watched this Family Guy episode where Joe does the exact same thing and had audible whiplash. Overall, I just find the mimic climbing onto our car and grabbing our steering wheel, causing us to completely wipe out on the road, as the mimic recreates the Batman 2022 and grabs the data driver from around our neck and walks off into the forest as we fade out of consciousness. There's one more ending I wanted to talk about, but first it's worth mentioning which ending I think is actually canon, because there's no way the secret ending is. I have no idea how hot a take is, but I think Arnold giving the schematics to Fazbear Entertainment is the canon ending for 3 reasons. One, after we've learnt about Arnold, he's desperate for money, and as regretful as he may be, he knows he has to do it and leaves it. 2, the mimic returns to MCM Workshop to stuff us in the suit. And 3, which is most importantly, this is the only ending where in any way Fazbear Entertainment gets the schematics, meaning in my working theory, either Fazbear Entertainment took the schematics and made their own mimic from the blueprints, due to both mimics having completely different designs, or Fazbear Entertainment learned how to disable the mimic and went there on their own, and left it locked up under where FNAF 6 takes place. For Fazbear Entertainment to have a mimic, they either had to take the one lost in the first place, or have the data driver also lost in the first ending. So as sad as it is that Arnold almost died, it is most likely the Canon ending. However, the final ending you have to get, there is quite a lot you have to do. To get it, there's two things you have to do, being use New Game Plus to collect the last few collectibles. Now you have a maxed out data driver, this also means having to find secret rooms that lead to a gigantic moon haunting the area. Get the final gift being David's ball and we can access a different path that leads to a room that looks extremely similar to the FNAF 4 bedroom. The Mimic comes out of the closet and slowly approaches us. To stop him, we have to read the story through pushing the buttons, all of which lead to Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. After doing all of this, the Mimic's chest opens, in which we are able to fix him and revert him back to the kind, friendly robot that would play with David as friends. He then grabs the tiger plush and gets in bed as the game ends. This ending just feels really depressing. It just shows the Mimic was never really the villain. It's Fazbear Entertainment. Fiona before her death made these characters inspired by something really personal, being David's story. A simple caring act in the hope that the characters would bring joy to the rest of the children that Fazbear Entertainment would take, and completely deviate the designs of, making the withers, which William Afton inevitably used to hide the bodies of children he murdered, working completely against Fiona's initial ideas for the characters. I keep seeing TikToks about it, but I really like the videos of people saying Edwin lost all his kids and stuff, and it cuts to the Lorax of the guy singing How Bad Can I Be, because it just shows that after everything, Henry gave this really big sentimental speech and he's just a massive knobhead in the 70s. Overall, the real secret of the Mimic was the friends we made along the way. Secret of the Mimic is objectively the best FNAF game, yet while some are definitely scarier and some are a lot less laggy, like Chop to Free of Puppy Playtime, this goes above and beyond and makes you feel something no other games do. It makes you feel sad and guilty and hatred towards Fazbear Entertainment. Anything that comes after this related to the Mimic, I honestly look forward to, after Steelwool provided 3 masterpieces each after each other, and in my opinion completely makes up for the previously mistakes related to Security Breach. With all that said, that's me done, see ya.